All right, so I saw that Ben Shopalapa Ding Dong made a review of Superman, and I watched it. It was very cringe and gay, and just not good in general. Now, I made a review of Superman. It was very good, very Chad, very based. So if you want to watch that, you can go to my second channel, link in the description down below. I did a non-spoiler and a spoiler review. That's called Synergy. I know how to be a YouTuber. But anyways, let's review the review of Benjamin Shopalopoulos.
This is not a movie about illegal immigration. It's not a movie about ICE, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, the Palestinians. There may be references there if you have politics on the brain, but other than that, I really don't think that there's that much of this there.
So I actually don't entirely disagree with half of that. Like, do I think that you can neatly map on the conflict between... Oh, and by the way, I guess spoiler alert for Superman. Do I think that you can neatly map the conflict between, like, Jarhanpur and Moravia, whatever the fuck, to, like, either Russia or Ukraine or Israel and Palestine? Not really. I feel like morally speaking, it's closest to Ukraine and Russia in the sense that there's literally no reason for Russia to be invading Ukraine other than they just want the land. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest expert in geopolitical conflicts, but what's going on in the Superman movie is portrayed as very black and white. The Moravian government is just a evil dictator that is wanting to take over a sovereign nation. If you want to apply that to certain conflicts, I guess you can try to, but you really can't neatly be like, this is exactly like this in real life. However, I do think that conservatives are on massive cope mode when it comes to this not being about illegal immigration. I mean, Superman is a literal, this isn't a metaphor, he is a literal illegal alien, and Lex Luthor is trying to, spin the media in order to get the citizens of Metropolis and the world to be against him, in order to convince people into thinking that he's dangerous. I mean, I'm sorry, but that just is a metaphor for how, illegal immigrants are being treated.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Oh, wait, those are actually legal immigrants. So it's actually even worse in real life. But yeah, I mean, if you're a conservative, you really just can't get away from the fact that Superman is an illegal immigrant. The Kents forged documents in order to adopt him. It just is what it is.
We have no choice. We have to call immigration.
I told Javier he'd be safe here, and I meant it.
I want to help this boy as much as you do, but I took an oath to uphold the law.
All he's trying to do is find his mom.
I know, but we have to go through the proper legal channels.
Was it legal when you forged my adoption papers? I'm an illegal immigrant, Mom. You've been harboring me for over 17 years.
Your situation was entirely different. We had to protect you.
And I need to protect Javier. If I don't defend him, who will?
Clark.
There's a mother out there who hasn't seen her son in over 2 years. Do you really want to stand in the way of that? I thought you of all people would understand.
And it's like, even if you're hardcore against immigration and you think that, illegal immigrants should be deported for, the sake of the law, right? Because they did break the law. I can understand that and I can sympathize with that. But unless you're like a genuinely evil person, like you're telling me you can't watch a movie where it's like humanizing an illegal alien, because you do realize that when you're deporting these people, you are uprooting somebody from their life, right? Like they've built lives here and you're just completely uprooting them. That's a horrific thing. And like, if you can't even bring yourself to watch a Superman movie because you don't want illegal immigrants to be humanized, it's like, you're just a bad person. I don't know what to tell you. And like, if you have to go into massive cope mode about how it's totally not about illegal immigration, guys, it's like, stop. We all know it's bullshit. Superman, inherently, every iteration, he's an illegal immigrant. It's a story about illegal immigration. I don't know what to tell you.
And all of it is just kind of wrapped around this gauzy, fast-paced, jokey tone that doesn't mesh with Superman as central part of Americana, to me. James Gunn's sensibility is always to be subversive.
Okay, so this is Ben's primary criticism of the movie, is that he doesn't feel like Superman represents America enough, and he also feels like James Gunn is being too subversive. So let's get into some of his examples.
The very beginning of the movie, you are told that Superman is the most powerful metahuman, right? There's like a placard that says 30 years ago, the metahumans arrived. 3 years ago, Superman emerged. 3 weeks ago, there was an invasion. And now 3 minutes ago, Superman's ass got kicked.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
He's not very super. He is not the Man of Steel. He is not invulnerable. He gets his ass kicked routinely. He gets locked up in a prison with a character who's making kryptonite out of his hands.
Sorry, what?
He's constantly in victim mode. Like Green Lantern has much more success in this movie.
So in Ben's defense, one of the things that James Gunn has come out and said is that he was trying to make a more vulnerable Superman. That being said, if you're paying attention, this Superman is by no means weak. So first of all, he brings up the opening crawl and he actually just gets the timeline wrong. It's actually 300 years ago that metahumans arrived. Either way, that's neither here nor there. But he gets to the end where, in Ben's words, it's Superman's butt got kicked. What it actually says is that for the first time ever, Superman lost a battle. Superman has exclusively been taking W's. And then the Hammer of Bravia served him his first L. Who is the Hammer of Bravia? It is later revealed that it's actually a clone of Superman. In this universe, the only being powerful enough to take down Superman is himself. In order for them to trap Superman in a cage, they had to use kryptonite. That's been the generic weakness that has always been able to hurt Superman. So it's like this idea that this Superman is weak isn't the Man of Steel or whatever nonsense Ben Shapiro was saying is just not true. If you were paying attention at all, you can't just have an all-powerful hero as your protagonist that just never gets hurt, because that wouldn't be an interesting movie.
Superman's parents from Krypton, if you're going to go through the mythology, send him to Earth so that he can be a moral guide for people on Earth using his great powers to stop evil from happening to them. In this movie, his parents from Krypton send him there. This is the big revelation of the movie. His parents send him there to dominate the life on Earth as an alien invasion, essentially, and to create a harem of Earth women to have his many babies.
Well, sign me up.
So immediately you're taking the expectation of what you know about his Krypton parents and flipping it on its head.
Okay, so yeah, I will concede that, yeah, most of the time, Jor-El is a noble figure, and this time they are subverting your expectations and making him be more of a colonialist, I guess, right? Is that what the proper term to use? I think it is. Why is that bad necessarily? Like, what is bad about that storyline? That's all that storyline really does is enhance the idea that Superman is a human being. He is an American that was raised by the Kents with the American values that the Kents raised him with. Isn't that what you wanted, Benjamin Shapalapa-Dingus? I don't actually understand why you would even complain about this.
Crypto, the super dog, is a terrible dog, is a dog that does not, like an idiot dog. Like way worse than my dog Happy. My dog Happy, way better than this dog, and my dog makes trouble. This dog is a mess. Supergirl, who you get introduced to for a hot second at the very end, Supergirl is a drunken teenage brat. Right, like anything that you think you know about the Superman universe, James Gunn is determined to debunk in the first half hour of the film. I think that it's a betrayal of the original IP.
So another point to be made here is that Ben Shapiro is actually just wrong about these examples. Like, I actually looked into it, and Krypto's very first appearance was him being an unruly dog that just appears, and Superman has to take care of him flying around and being a menace. And the Supergirl that is in the DCU is a direct adaptation of the Supergirl from Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, where she is a drunken mess. I mean, he's just factually wrong about those two examples being subversive. I mean, I'm generally okay with adaptations taking liberties and making changes from the source material, but especially when it comes to comic book characters, it's like, how many iterations of Superman have there been? It's like, who cares if this version of Krypto is different from a comic book version of Krypto? Who cares if this version of Supergirl is different from previous iterations of Supergirl? Who cares if Jor-El is different from other iterations of Jor-El? Why is it bad in the context of this movie? The criticism of it just being subversive is, well, stupid.
Because James Gunn is not capable of delving, he's not capable of delving into a single character and examining his motivations and what's interesting about that character. He can't do it with Superman, he can't do it with Lois, he can't do it with Lex. There's a scene where Clark and Lois, they've had a fight and now they're back together and they're having a talk. And it's supposed to be this very intimate talk where they're speaking with each other. And literally outside the window, Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl are fighting a gigantic sort of eye monster that looks like it's from Suicide Squad.
Stop it right there, Joker. You'll never get me, Batman. Will you catch him?
It's extremely distracting because he's James Gunn and everything has to be some sort of dumb joke. You're like, well, shouldn't Superman be doing something about it? No, let them handle it. Again, that's irritating.
So he says that James Gunn refuses to explore Clark and Lois, and then he immediately starts talking about a scene that explores the characters of Clark and Lois, where it showcases Lois's pragmatism, and it also showcases Clark's relentless value of all life. I mean, that scene has maybe the best line of the whole movie, when Clark is talking about how he needs to find Crypto, and Lois says, why? He's just a dog. And Clark says, but he's not even a good dog. But he's alone and he's probably scared. It's like that very scene that Ben is complaining about is the scene where James Gunn explores the characters. Now, you can say that it doesn't explore them well or that it's not well written or well performed. That's fine. But it's just very funny for you to complain about a scene that directly contradicts what you just said.
Lex Luthor is obviously the smartest person in the film. So smart, he can create his own universes. Is a major plot point. And he is concerned about a relatively small piece of land occupied by third worlders. This is his big plan. And later it turns out that he said, oh, no, I started that war just so that I could get people to turn against Superman. Okay, well, he does that halfway through the film. And then he jails him, and then he leaves him alive and explains this secondary plan that apparently was his primary plan, sort of. But he doesn't kill Superman at the time for a reason that remains undisclosed.
So he's trying to find a plot hole in Lex Luthor's evil plan, but I guess he just wasn't paying attention. First of all, he says, why would Lex Luthor, an evil billionaire, want his own sovereign piece of land? I don't know, maybe so that he could do evil things that he would have trouble getting away with on American soil. It obviously makes sense that Lex Luthor would want his own piece of sovereign land. He's also like, well, he captured Superman, why didn't he kill him? Lex Luthor literally says that he's trying to get information out of Superman before he kills him. And so he was using the vendor guy in order to interrogate Superman. He shoots the vendor guy and says that he's going to find somebody else to use as a bargaining chip. He literally explains why he's leaving Superman alive. I mean, honestly, if you want to be nitpicky and bring up a logical error, you could have just used the fact that Metamorpho stopped using kryptonite and took a decently long time to become the Sun, and none of the LexCorp security guards noticed or intervened. But I guess Ben Shapiro isn't even smart enough to pick up on the actual illogical aspects of this movie.
So we've been told this is a movie about illegal immigration. Not really. Honestly, like you have to look to find that. There's one line where Clark is saying, aren't you going to read me my rights? James Gunn's politics is so ham-handed, like truly ham-handed, that it doesn't even read as political, it just reads as stupid. So there's a moment where Clark, he's being arrested, and he says, aren't you going to read me my rights? And one of the members of the government says, well, you're now considered an enemy alien, right? You don't have any rights because you're not an American. All right. Like, if that's supposed to be some sort of like anti-ICE sentiment, it's really weak. Also, legally incredibly stupid, considering that he came to Earth as a baby and then was adopted by an American family, which would make him American.
Ben, what do the Kents have to do to adopt Clark? They have to forge papers. They had to forge adoption papers in order to illegally adopt Clark. This is just massive cope from conservatives because they want to try to adopt Superman as like some piece of conservative propaganda, but they don't want to accept the fact that he is an illegal immigrant. It's very odd and, quite frankly, just evil. The idea that they can't like and empathize with a story about an illegal immigrant, it's just like objectively stupid, and I hope most of you guys, even conservatives, even Ben Shapiro fans, can see through how dumb that is. But anyways, Ben Shapiro thinks that the pro-immigration, the left-wing politics of the movie are too ham-handed. So what does he want instead?
The only Superman movie that I have ever seen that uses truth, justice, and the American way is the original 1978 Superman.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
This is not just a throwaway line. It is deeply important to the character of Superman. Why? Well, because take Superman just as a character. Superman is unbelievably powerful, unstoppable. He's faster than anyone. He has X-ray and laser vision. He's stronger than anyone, right? He's basically a god on earth, and the biggest god. He's Zeus, right? He can do whatever he wants. And so, why is he the good guy? Why isn't Lex Luthor right? Because, let's be real, if there were a person on earth who actually had those powers, Americans would rightly be very much afraid of that.
That is one of the cringiest things I've ever seen. Jesus fucking Christ, the Daily Wire, why? I'm actually cringing out of my skin.
The only reason why Superman would be a hero as opposed to a villain is because he grew up in America, because he has the American way, right? He's emblematic of what America is. May blunder, may make mistakes, but overall stands for freedom and liberty and private property and free speech and all of those things.
All that stuff.
Right? All the good American stuff.
This is just blatantly transparent. He's like, no. Any kind of thing that is pro-illegal immigrant, that's bad, and that's ham-handed, and that's too in your face. You know what this movie needs? It needs to be American propaganda. Superman has to say truth, justice, and the American way. It needs to be in your face, pro-America. It's like, Superman can't just be a good guy. Like, why does he have to attach himself to America? Now look, I'm not super precious about this kind of thing. If James Gunn had decided to have, David Cornsweet say truth, justice, and the American way in the movie, I wouldn't be one of the people that would be like, no, America bad, America super bad, blah, 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 blah. But I'm totally fine with David Cornsweet just being a good guy, representing kindness, and being a beacon of hope for us as Americans, and even the rest of the world, to look up to for inspiration. I'm perfectly fine with that being the take of Superman. But anyways, Ben Shapiro really wants Superman to be a representative of America specifically. What does he think of the Kents, who were just normal, average, everyday Americans?
In the original, they are noble and they are wise. They're kind of salt of the earth. Here, they're basically kind of, I don't know, like down home types who don't seem to, they live in a kind of a crappy house. They're the kind of people who call the TV the box. They're the kind of folks who are sitting around and kind of scratching their butts. They're purposely cast as ugly and non-noble.
Wow, you're actually a scumbag. The Kents in this movie are just normal people from Kansas. They're just normal Kansas farmers. Their house is fine. They're not butt scratchers. They're not stupid. There's like one scene where Ma Kent is using a phone in a funny way. But me, who sees an older person, from rural Kansas, who maybe doesn't know how to use a phone properly, that's just endearing to me. I don't look down on these people whatsoever. I don't look down on them as beneath me. I don't look down on them as dumber than me. They're decent, hardworking Americans that are just existing. Ben Shapiro, I was not familiar with your game. I didn't realize that you just openly look down on presumably a large part of your audience, which I assume are like rural conservatives that are probably watching Ben Shapiro as one of the more popular conservative voices on the internet. Like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, seriously, if you're listening to Ben Shapiro, maybe you're not a rural Kansas farmer, but do you have family who are like rural Southerners who, when you watch Ma and Pa Kent, remind you of? I have family who those characters remind me of. Ben Shapiro is a wealthy elite that looks down on them as stupid, poor people who wouldn't even spit on them if they were on fire. That's incredible. This is actually like the one part of the video that triggers me. Ben Shapiro is a scumbag.
Hollywood is not run by people who believe that there is such a thing as an ultimate good or an ultimate goal. It's run by moral relativists who have a kind of, at best, soft-pedaled, generic, be nice attitude toward the world, which is why Superman's defense of intervening in this foreign conflict is,
People were going to die.
okay, well, people would die on the other side, presumably, if you didn't intervene. Or people die every day in conflicts all over the world. Right? The reason that Clark or Superman is supposed to intervene is because one side is right and one side is wrong. And unless you are willing to simply say that all foreign policy situations in which people die under any circumstances are equivalent, which I don't think is right.
Benjamin Bartholomew. In the movie, Clark believes that Baravia is in the wrong. And he believes that Jarhanpur, the sovereign country that is about to be taken over, that is about to be invaded by an evil dictator, is in the right. He absolutely is taking a side in the movie. What are you even yapping about? I'm not sure if he actually even watched the movie or if he just watched the trailer and then read a synopsis about it, because these things are stated and showed in the film. Again, I agree that I don't necessarily think that James Gunn is trying to neatly map the conflict onto any specific real world conflict so as not to have like actual real life like specific political takes. However, yes, within the context of the movie, this geopolitical conflict is so black and white where the Baravia country, the evil dictatorship country, is portrayed as being in the wrong, right? Superman firmly believes they're in the wrong. He absolutely takes a side. You're retarded. So yeah, I mean, it's just a dumb review from a conservative hack. Any type of left-leaning, politics regarding illegal immigration, anything like that that's sprinkled in the movie, that's ham-handed, too in your face. Oh, James Gunn has no subtlety. But we definitely need Superman literally holding an American flag and saying truth, justice, and the American way, instead of just embodying good ideals that anyone can look at and aspire to be. So anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out my reviews on my second channel. Links will be in the description below. And yeah, bye.